Good morning.
And good evening, beautiful people. Hey, I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm going to keep it a stack. I'm going to keep it 100. This is going to be a good old show. You feel me? Because we got a lot of voices. We're going to be going around different training camps to get some info on how some of these teams are playing, how some of the guys are breaking out in training camp. But more specifically, the Texas X's around the league that are now rookies. How are they looking in their first ever training camp? I got a couple of homies I'm going to reach out to. We're going to start out in Kansas City, talk to my boy Harold Kuntz to give us the info about Xavier Worthy. Then we're going out to Indianapolis for the Colts as James Boyd. He's been on the pod before. He's going to give you some intel about Adonai Mitchell. And then lastly, going out to Tennessee with the Titans with Ben Arthur. He's going to let us know about T'Vondre Sweat and also their new pickup, Quandre Diggs. You don't want to miss that, but as always, we got to start off with how our weeks have been. And Dion, the word on the street is that you watched a movie on Netflix that you should have watched months ago, but I'm going to give you some grace because you're a hardworking man, so you don't have all the time to do that. But you finally watched the movie that I've been raving about, and I think it's honestly a great movie, but it's also scary because it's so realistic.
I recently watched Leave the World Behind on Netflix. I know. Oh, you should have been on that movie. Came out a long time ago. I know, but I like to take my time with stuff. I don't like to rush it. Like, I don't want to be in part of everybody else. I like to have my own thoughts. And I just randomly woke up at like 2 a.m. and I was like, you know what? Let me just throw this movie on. So watched the movie.
No way you stayed up. You stayed up and watched?
I took a nap, and I was just like, you know what? F it. It's late. It's dark. Might as well throw this movie on. And watched it and scratched my head the whole time because the whole movie was wild. Craziest part of the movie was like, yo, even though you're rich, he was like, the best thing you can think of, or the best thing for rich people is like, yo, they can just get a heads up. Nobody's in control. It's like, oh, jeez. What about us small people?
We're all cooked.
Oh man, yeah, the whole movie was crazy. But that was kind of my highlight of my week, watching that, just kind of thinking like, dang, it makes you just want to be prepared. Just makes you want to be prepared. Get all the, non-perishables and
toilet paper,
solar battery, toilet paper. Yeah, it just makes you want to be prepared. But what about yourself? I know that not the streets were talking. It seems like you showed a little bit of your highlight of the week being all over the world, especially in Chicago.
Yeah.
How was NABJ, my guy?
Yeah, it was dope, bro. National Association of Black Journalists, for anyone who doesn't know what NABJ stands for. We had our conference in Chicago this past week, and man, it was a movie. Of course, we made national media because Donald Trump pulled up. They had the whole debate, or I guess conversation you can call it, on stage, but it wasn't really like a conversation. It was more so just a yelling match and everyone just throwing slugs at each other. So
it was very
entertaining, dude. It was very entertaining. So respect for Donald for pulling up, right? I gotta show my respect because he got the invitation, which I don't know why NABJ even invited him, but I'm not on that board, so I don't know. But the fact that Trump's people were like, F it, why not pull up to an all-black convention? And then why not thrash black journalists while I'm at the all-black journalist convention? But, respect. That's Trump. He's going to stick to what he knows. And that's to cause fireworks and to cause a bunch of havoc and chaos. And so, it was entertaining, like you said.
And,
very entertaining.
I did a little bit of research, and, former presidents or, elected officials have been there, so I was like, okay, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. I guess my funniest part about Trump is it did not seem like he was prepared to sway anybody in the crowd on his side. Trump was just talking like he was in front of his regular group of people, and I guess he thought that was going to work. But as far as NABJ, does it usually get this much? I guess national coverage, or is it kind of just like, yeah, this is our thing we go to every year, we network? How would you determine? Because this is what your third, fourth?
Yeah, it's my third one. It's my third one going, and you're right. Like, usually there's not this much national coverage just because Trump didn't pull up on every other convention, but there is a lot of local coverage. I will say that there was also a lot of Chicago local stations walking around the convention throughout the week, getting shots, interviewing people. So like the local coverage, yes, but nationally, no. This was kind of like the first year in a while where nationally everyone's looking at NABJ. But yeah, it was a dope experience, man. Being able to go in this year with the plan, right? I feel like years past, I just been going just to go and meeting whoever I meet and talk to whoever I want to talk to when it comes to my reels, when it comes to my resume and stuff like that. But this year, I knew what companies I wanted to interact with. I knew what people I needed to converse with and watch my work. And I think that's what made this year so impactful for me in my career, is I was able to make strong connections that maybe will change the landscape of my career when it comes to next year, year after next, you know. And so we'll see what God has planned. But I definitely feel like this year I was able to get more things done than years past when it comes to business. And I like it. I like Chicago, of course. That's always a great city to go to, a beautiful city in the summer. I look, dude, I would get a summer home in Chicago. If I had the bread, like that would be my summer spot.
I've heard they have one of the best, what is it? I don't want to say skylines, but downtown.
Yeah, skylines. Downtown, yeah.
Best in the city, or best in the country. What would you say?
Well, it's beautiful.
Since you're from Houston, I know Houston's
not that great though. Yeah. I would argue Dallas has a better skyline than Houston does. Like, if I'm being real, like being from Houston, yes, woo, but I'm not an idiot. You know, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Like, Dallas's skyline is crazy to me. I mess with it, especially with the lit up tower. I think that's cool. Yeah. Reunion Tower is really cool. Like, Dallas is really cool. But Chicago's, it's the infrastructure, right? It's the buildings that look so vintage. I love that side of things. And, you know, they have so much history within the city and you can see it throughout their buildings. And I think that's what separates them. And of course you still got like the Bean, you know, downtown and stuff like that. You got all the historical landmarks and stuff like that. So yeah, Chicago's downtown and skyline is top tier. You can just walk around it and you can feel like you're in a dope city. So yeah, man, I would attest to that. I would give a thumbs up to it being one of the best skylines in the nation.
Got you. And then our last question about NABJ, and then we'll get into sports. When it comes to NABJ, is it always in Chicago? Does it move every year? And then lastly, if somebody was thinking about, you know, going or joining NABJ, a young guy that's in college or whatever the case may be, you know, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so it does move every year. And so last year it was in Alabama, and the year before that it was in Vegas. I went to that one, and also Miami in 2020. So Miami was my first one actually that I went to, and so it does move. Next year will be in Cleveland, you know. So shout out LeBron, you know what I'm saying? I may go out there.
How do they keep doing that?
I don't know, bro.
They got the All-Star game. They get this.
Bro. I don't know what's in Cleveland, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got some family out there, but that's all I got. Like, I don't know what's in Cleveland, but they got it. They got it. So yeah, we'll be out there next year. And to answer your second part of the question, I think the biggest thing that this whole convention is for is relationship building, right? And connections. If we're being real, my first couple years there's guys that I met that I looked up to, that I followed their work, and I was like, look, I want to be like you. You know, I feel like you have some traits that are great. So can we connect? Can you watch my stuff and tell me where I can improve at? That's the biggest thing, is that people are able to give you real critiques and not just sugarcoat things. And you also know that the people giving critiques is coming from a good heart and not from some upper management person or someone that doesn't look like you that's trying to put you in a box. And so, yeah, I think that's big time for anyone anyone looking to join NABJ. And that was the cool part about my trip this year, right? This was the first year, Dion, where guys were walking up to me saying, bro, I love your work. Can you help me with my stuff? How are you doing this? What makes you do that? And it was really kind of surreal to think I've reached that point in my career where I'm low-key an inspiration to some people, right? Like, I'm low-key someone that people look at my work and try to model after. And I'm just living my day-to-day life. And it's a very humbling experience, right? It's something that I didn't think I would be in this seat, or I didn't think I would have this place in the journalism field. I was just
in a short amount of time as well.
Exactly, bro. I mean, I've been in the game for about 4 or 5 years now, and it's flown by, but I'm still looking up to dudes that's been in the game for 20, 25 years. But the new age of reporters are looking at my style and they're loving it and they're trying to emulate it. So yeah, I think that's crazy, to think that a lot of people are watching my work and they put in perspective how I carry myself is impacting other young journalists. And so that's been really dope. That was a real dope experience for me to see that, hear how people look up to me. And also, like I said, on the flip side, very humbling as well to know I have a long way to go, but I have to be thankful about where I've come. And funny enough, Dion, I actually met the newest guy at my old station, new sports guy at News West 9. Shout out Milan Odessa, you know what I'm saying? His name's Cory.
They was hoping they was getting you back, huh?
Yeah. His name's Cory.
Cory. Oh yeah, call him back.
Yeah. Real dope kid too, man. Like he real down to earth. I don't want to call him a kid. Real dope dude too, man. Like down to earth. Chopping up with him, getting to know him a little bit, showing him the ropes or telling him the ropes about Milan Odessa and what he can do to thrive there. So that was really cool to kind of get the new age of News West 9 sports under Cory, kind of get him started. So yeah, that was kind of surreal.
Hey, Cory's out there. When you graduate, you can get a job in Midland, Odessa. They take care of Cory.
Oh my God!
Oh, that's crazy.
All right, let's get into this first one.
Let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, first up, y'all. Like I said, I can't wait for y'all to hear all these interviews because so much intel between all these guys that are at these practices, that are in these press conferences. You know how Mose Knows does it. We don't give you BS. We give you the people that are actually in these rooms. And so first up will be Harold Kuntz, who also was at Chicago with me. So I know we're going to talk about that in his trip. But we're going to discuss the Kansas City Chiefs, how they're looking in camp right now, but more specifically, Xavier Worthy, first-round draft pick. Is he really showing out like we see on social media? Or is it more so the one clip that we've seen on social with him getting bullied at the line, press coverage? Which one is it? Is he thriving or is he just trying to survive out there, right? We're about to find out right now with Harold Kuntz. All right, our first guest of the day, Harold Kuntz from Fox 4 out in Kansas City. Brody, I got to have you on just to talk, of course, Kansas City Chiefs, Xavier Worthy to be specific. But we both just got back from Chicago. I know, Dion, we were just talking about my trip to Chicago. So Dion may have a couple questions for you right now.
Yeah, Harold, please sum up your experience at NABJ. I mean, that's been the talk of the town all over the social media streets, the good and the bad. So just tell us about your experience.
Man, it's a shame when you come back and everybody wants to talk to you about Wednesday and everything that went down. But I mean, that's really what it was. I mean, it was a newsworthy event. And I mean, you had so many things like, one of the guys here in Kansas City, his name's Glenn Rice. He's actually in charge of some of the panels that are going on. And of course, that was one of the panels. And he was telling me about there's complaints about not enough American flags. There's complaints about fact checking. There's obviously, the lateness involved with it. So it was a lot going down, but I mean, it was a long line of people, and some people definitely registered to be members of the National Association of Black Journalists who probably would have never thought about being members of the National Association of Black Journalists. So a kind of a win-win there, I guess, from a money standpoint. But again, it happened. I mean, I'm not going to try to comment on anything that was said, but it was about to be probably, I'm sure, what was expected. But otherwise, it was great. I mean, it was good to see people like Cory, obviously, doing his thing down in Austin, and everybody else. It's always good to see a lot of, young black men. I mean, I'm getting near 40, so I'm not really the young black man anymore. But like,
what you mean, man?
Yeah,
you are a young one. Black don't crack.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got going for me right now when it comes to music. But no, it is good to see some of the young up and coming guys, like making their mark. I mean, we got some here in KC. I mean, you guys know Aaron Ladd, so he's trying to do his best out here. But yeah, it's really good to see a lot of the guys, doing their thing and seeing some different ideas, kind of cultivating great ideas for everybody else, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, seeing what works at this level, seeing what works at that level. I mean, meet a guy that works in like St. Angelo, trying to make his way up, and remember when I was like in Hagerstown. So it's really cool to see all the young guys stepping up, doing their things, and how it's evolved over the years. So it's just good to see a lot of things come to fruition for a lot of guys.
And my last question about NABJ: if somebody was contemplating on either joining or going, what would you tell them?
Well, I'm the president of the Kansas City Association of Black Journalists, and I take that role proudly. So I think that's really cool that it's a good thing to be boots on the ground, but it's really just good for fellowship and mentorship more than anything. I mean, we've got great journalism schools in Missouri and Kansas right down the street. Missouri's a little further, but Kansas is about 40 minutes away. And they're always reaching out to us, and we speak to them, the kids, and, they're going to try to do their thing one day. I mean, we've got one that was a producer at one of the other stations in the market. She talked to us for a couple times. I mean, she's gotten involved in NABJ. She's from Chicago. She's ending up back in Chicago as a producer off of this convention. So, I mean, now that's because producers are, few and far between. So they're obviously going to get a job quicker than, people like Cory and myself. But it's really good to see that people are rising because of it and making those connections. And I mean, the more you know, the more people you know, the more you know. So it really helps out in the long run.
Facts. Well, Cory, look, we love to talk sports here. Go ahead and take us away, Cory. Let's talk some sports.
Yeah, man. Let's dive into what you cover on a daily basis, Harold, and the Kansas City Chiefs, and more specifically, just a guy that we're familiar with, and Xavier Worthy. It seems like he's had a really good camp. There was one day, that video came out of him getting bullied at the line of scrimmage, getting pressed at the line. He fell down. Not a good clip, but other than that, it's been pretty solid for Xavier. And so just let me know from your own eyes, since your boots on the ground, what have you seen from him at the wide receiver position, and what do you think he fits into this offense?
He's a guy that's going to make you remember the numbers 1, 4, and 5. 1 being Xavier Worthy, of course, 4 Rasheed Rice, and 5 is Hollywood Brown. And I think really under the mentorship of Rice and Brown, those guys have got a good bond. They always walk down to training camp fields together. Today they were jogging down. I mean, they're really excited to be there. And I think that's a great position for Xavier to learn under a guy like Rasheed, who had a pretty successful rookie season himself and has also made some mistakes throughout his career from an offseason standpoint, so he can learn from him on what to do and what not to do. And then also Hollywood Brown being that veteran there, he's great. He's great in the room, knows what to do, similar type of games. And what the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to do this whole offseason through OTAs, minicamp, and everything, they're trying to take the top off of defenses. If you saw the Chiefs last year, they were trying to grind things out. They couldn't get the deep ball to work the way they wanted to because they really didn't have the deep threats. Rasheed was still a rookie learning. Obviously, Marquise was not on the team, and Xavier was not on the team. That's changed. It's a whole different type of philosophy for Andy Reid and Matt Nagy to have that type of play calling where they can go get the top off the field. If anything, it's going to open things up in the interior for one Travis Kelce, so he can stay a little healthy and not have to feel like he's doing everything. It's going to take the help off of Jared Wiley, who's an emerging tight end. It's all trying to help the offense go deep down the field. If those shots are there, they're going to take those shots. But if they're not there, at least they run down there. That occupies the safeties. That occupies in this new NFL where everybody's pretty much running nickel now and a little more mobile. It occupies a couple of fast people down the field. That gets Travis Kelce in one-on-one situations. That gets Jared Wiley in one-on-one situations. It gets some of the interior guys. It gets end rounds working if they want to use McCole Hardman or somebody like that. So it's really a great situation for everybody involved if they can get open. And Xavier Worthy's a big part of that. We know about the speed. We haven't seen the race yet with the 40-yard dash for everybody yet. We haven't seen that. If they have done it, it's probably behind closed doors, little bets here or there on it. But, yeah, it's really good to see him emerge into this. If he stays healthy, I can definitely see him being a little frustrating for fantasy. He could have like a two-catch, 63-yard day. Yeah. And then one of those is a 61-yard catch. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he fits into the scheme. They're notoriously slow at working in rookies. But at least we know that for sure. His role is Patrick Mahomes is trying to get the ball to Xavier. He's made it an emphasis. He's getting the ball to him. So look out for that in the course of the season, and look for him. Even if he's running wind sprints out there, he's going to have a large part of this offense.
Do you have a story? Do you have a time at practice that you may have seen of like, oh wow, he's fast? Or has anyone ever said anything during player availabilities about Xavier Worthy's speed? Have you heard anything? Just wonder.
Oh, everybody's, raising him with his maturity and his durability. I mean, you mentioned that clip going about the defense. I think that's just trying to teach him a lesson. Yeah, I mean, it took him for a bit. He's shook, but I mean, that's what training camp's for. It's trying to live and learn so that when you're in the game, you don't have to learn as much. I mean, he's really been a major factor. Again, he's been a major factor of what they're doing. And the more you talk about him, the more they're like, he's incorporating himself more into the offense. They like what he's doing. I mean, like, Patrick Mahomes is not a guy that has time to mess around. Like, when he's out there at the practice field, he doesn't have time to mess around. That guy's a true East Texan, even though he played in West Texas. So he's a guy he's going to get you ready to go in any way, shape, or form. And Xavier's been the guy that any story you hear about him, it's all positive. I mean, he's been nothing but great work. He's been rehabbing well whenever he needs to. Obviously, had to deal with the hamstring in the rookie years, but it's not like he needed as many middle reps. He's really come in and really come strong. And again, he's going to be somebody that they look forward to seeing. And he's also a key thing to see. He's also listed as one punt returner in the unofficial depth chart so far. So that's something he's trying to get with as well. I mean, that's typical for a guy who's going to be fourth or fifth wide receiver in the room and not a guy that's going to be involved in every play. So look for him in special teams, too. He's going to have a big part there and it's working right now. The special teams coordinator likes you at that position. Dave Tobe is his name. If he likes you, you're A, going to make the team, but B, you're going to have a large part if he really likes you.
Yeah, he had a big role in the punt returns at Texas, and so I can definitely see him doing that for the Kansas City Chiefs. Dion, you had something?
Nah, I mean, he's telling me everything. You know, I'm a fantasy guy, so.
I'm about to say, ask him about it.
So, are you saying we should go out and get him? I know you're talking about 2 catches, 60 yards. I mean, if that's okay for 2 catches, but I mean, we're talking about.
He's the guy that you stash on the bench and hope you get lucky with a lucky day during the bye. That's really what you do with him.
What guy is standing out in your eyes, bro, when it comes to fantasy perspective? Is there a wide receiver that you feel like in that room is someone that we should go after? Of course, you know Travis Kelce is always going to be at the top of the fantasy list. Yeah. But like any other player that you've been seeing popping off at camp?
Yeah, that's the thing about receivers with the Chiefs. It's a lot of distribution there. They don't have a number one. Like, once Tyreek left, they don't have a real, true number one. So one day it could be Rasheed with a big day. The next day it could be Marquise with a big day. It could be Xavier with a big day. And then Travis Kelce will be pretty consistent. You have the consistency with him, but even then he kind of I wouldn't say slowed down a little bit, but toward the end there, he didn't get it would become so accustomed to him getting 1,000 yards a season. That didn't happen for him last year, even though he probably could have in the last game if he did play. But it's still a matter of they like to distribute the ball. They like Pacheco back there in the backfield. So they like to establish a run game there. They got a great offensive line. So their offense is really complete in the sense that everybody knows their role. They do their role. If you're open, you're open. So from a fantasy standpoint, I wouldn't really rely on a Chiefs guy if you're looking for a wide receiver 1. Maybe not so much wide receiver 2, but definitely have those guys in the kind of the hybrid position and definitely stash them in the bench because, like, you just don't know. It could be their day depending upon the matchup, how it happens.
This is my last question, and Dion, you may have something else after this, but going back to Xavier, do you have any info about the whole car getting stolen situation? Did y'all talk to him about it? And if so, what was with that?
I can tell you right now, the way Kansas City is, there's been a lot of carjackings recently.
Oh, wow. It's just, that's how y'all out there in KC?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, Kansas City sometimes has a problem when it comes to not only carjackings, but just the crime rate it's actually lowered this year, but like the last few years, it's just gone up and up and up.
Wow.
Slowed down just a bit. Yeah, I mean, yes, in the good old happy Midwest, things happen. But yeah, it's gone up and up and up. It's slowed down just a bit. It's been a slower summer than normal, knock on wood, obviously. But it's a problem that not a lot of people have encountered. I mean, my wife dealt with it too. So like, and we live outside. We live just outside the city. We live in North Kansas City. So like, it's a prevalent situation. It's not anything accustomed to KC, but look, he was in an area where it was downtown, and it was easily preventable probably if he just parked on a certain level. So live and learn. It's more learning level about Kansas City. But, once he gets to that little separate area, the nice parts, that's why a lot of the players live in the Kansas side. They don't do it as much in the Kansas side as they do in the Missouri side.
Time for him to go get him a Nissan Altima.
Well, you can't do that. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, we got some guys. They drive some very nice vehicles. I mean, we know the ones who do. Like, we know what I'm not going to say them, obviously, but like,
yeah.
We know the vehicle that Mahomes drives. We know the vehicle that Kelsey drives. We know the vehicle that Pacheco drives. You can't miss that one. And there's a couple other guys that have some nice fancy cars, but most of them are going with the old F-150s.
Solid. Well, Harold, you're driving a car at Fox 4 right now, so thank you so much for your time. I know you got to get back to it.
Wait, one last question. Since we're talking about the Chiefs, I mean, are there going to be any special preparations this year with Taylor and Travis, or are they doing anything different this year?
Part of working here in Kansas City is to know the exact dates and schedule and times and locations of Taylor Swift's concerts. I'm joking. You don't. It's not a requirement. But it feels
I was about to say, what?
He working hard.
Travis got a new place out in the Kansas side, gated community. She'll be sticking around there, I'm sure, during his break. And she'll make appearances at the game like she now always does. Like we've become accustomed to it that she just comes to the games.
She's the homie now.
They're okay. You're part of the quote unquote Chiefs Kingdom now. Congratulations. And she takes her sweet seat in her suite, and we leave her be.
That's crazy.
I don't blame her. And that's a nice little view up there. But Harold, thank you so much for hopping on today. I know you got a lot going on. You just got done from Quincy Hall's watch party, by the way, guys. He was just in the mix watching the 400-meter Olympic champion win. And so you were able to talk to the family, see some of his coaches. So that's a dope experience for you. I know you got to edit all of that and put it together. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And also taking the time to talk to us. And so I know you got a busy schedule. So thank you.
Absolutely,
Can't wait to have you
absolutely. And Cory, I don't say this enough, man. I'm real proud of you. I'm proud of what you do down there in Austin. And you're setting a great standard down there. You and Jeff do a great job. Dion, I'm sure you do a great job too, because if you know Cory, you do a good job. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing down there. And just for this one little thing there, that's it. You get 2 seconds.
Well, I appreciate you, Brody. I appreciate you, Doc. Great to have him. First time on the pod, Dion. Harold made his first appearance. So thank you so much, Harold, for hopping on. What'd you like about our conversation, D?
I love that he kept it honest, man. Mm-hmm. He's saying Xavier's going to get the touches. He's going to get the chance, but the ball's going to be distributed evenly. So for your fantasy guy, you might want to – he's going to be a late pick for you. It's going to be a late pick for you. Yeah. So I was hoping maybe he's going to give us some, hey, he might be that Tyreek, one of Pat's favorites, but, they're spreading the love around. What about you, Cory?
Yeah, on that note, before I go to my point, I do think he can evolve into that. I think that's something that they've been missing ever since Tyreek Hill left. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess not left, but I don't know if he got traded or if it was free agency. No, I can't remember. But at the end of the day, they haven't had a deep threat like Tyreek Hill since he's gone. And so now you have Xavier, but you also have Hollywood Brown. My guess is one of those guys is going to step up and be that deep threat for Patrick. And I can't wait to see who it is. But one thing that stood out to me was the crime rate in Kansas City. Did not know that they was out there in the streets like that, stealing cars, jacking people. I thought Kansas City was a quiet city.
Yeah, Taylor definitely just going to the games and going home after.
Yeah, she's not walking around the bar scene at all. She's getting out of there, boy.
Oh, no, that's crazy.
Getting out of there. But yeah, I didn't know that. I had no idea. And sorry for Harold's wife. Her car got jacked, apparently. Is that what he said, right? Car got jacked?
It's apparently that's a big deal. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Out of all cities.
Yeah, facts. And the demographic out there. Couldn't imagine. But that leads us to our next city that has a lack of melanin. Indianapolis Colts out there with my boy James Boyd. He writes for The Athletic. We had him on to talk Kalen Clark about a month ago. And now he's diverse, man. He got a big bag. You feel me? He doesn't just talk about Indiana Fever. He also talks about the Indianapolis Colts. And he's going to speak about Adonai Mitchell and how he's been looking. Just got named a co-starter in the depth chart when it comes to the Colts. Adonai did. And so I'm going to ask him about it, see what that means, and see if that gives us any type of sign of how productive Adonai is going to be in fantasy this year. Here's James Boyd. All right, here we go. My guy is here, James Boyd from The Athletic. Oh, my goodness, dog. Out there in Indianapolis, you've been able to see a lot of training camp action. And, of course, I brought you on because you're there. You're boots on the ground. You know what I'm saying? You're watching the practices. You're seeing the throws, and you're seeing how the defense is performing. But I just want to start off by saying, one, thank you for all you do. Thank you for all the work that you've been putting in. I know you've been grinding. And two, I want to ask you what you've been thinking about the team so far with the Indianapolis Colts. How do they look?
Appreciate you having me. I think right now they look okay. I know a lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, are they killing it? Are they terrible? But a lot of it, I think, throughout camp is, depending on how optimistic you want to be. I mean, it's camp. They can come out here and have a great camp and have a bad season, have a bad camp, have a great season. But I will say Anthony looks better. He looks more comfortable back there. I know that's a big deal for them, and obviously him missing so much time last year, you want him to get as many reps as possible. So he's looking more comfortable, looking a little older. Not an old head just yet, but he's getting there. And then from there, you'd like to see Jonathan Taylor be healthy this year. This time last year, he had no training camp. He was still sidelined with the ankle injury, so having him back there is huge as well. And then obviously, I'm sure we'll get to it, the newcomers, Latu from UCLA has looked really good once the pads have come on. He's been a disruptive pass rusher for them, which they hope translates to the regular season. And then obviously A.D. Mitchell in the second round, they're hoping he can be a dude, and at times he has shown that.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on AD, but first, Latu. I just want to put out there, I thought he was the best player defensively in the draft. I don't know why Atlanta passed him up. I know they took Penix, but I feel like Latu would have been a great pick there. But then also Seattle, going with Byron Murphy, respect, shout out UT. But I always thought Latu was the guy on that defensive line that anybody would be stupid to pass up. And so glad to hear that he has been balling out there in camp. But of course, I want to go into Adonai Mitchell because you mentioned him. What is something that you feel like he's been able to progress in throughout camp, knowing that, of course, you got some rookie speed bumps, I guess you could say, but now is he smooth sailing or how's he been looking?
I think early on throughout training camp, he kind of fell off from where he was at during like rookie minicamp and OTAs. And obviously he's facing better competition in these settings than he was at the beginning when he first got drafted. And so he was very slow, very quiet at the beginning of training camp. But I would say the last week or so, he's kind of come alive a little bit. He's had some good moments throughout 11-on-11, some big moments in one-on-ones. And then also, AD is the type of player that I'm learning now, he's going to talk after every play he makes. And so there wasn't much to talk about early on, but I think now he's getting a groove and he'll let you know, if I burned you, I burned you. And I think you need that. We talked to Reggie Wayne about him recently, and Reggie was saying he's an alpha. And obviously we got to start from scratch with him. We got to work with a lot of things with him, but he was like, I'd rather have a guy like that who feels like they're the top guy, who feels that they're a top dog, than to have, a guy have to kind of boost up and give them that mentality. So he's very confident. I think he's made, some plays, like I said, more plays recently. And I would say right now, him and Alec Pierce, not even me saying this, actually head coach Shane Steichen and the, offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter, they're both saying that it's pretty neck and neck right now between that wide receiver 3 role. And so we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I saw that they listed them as co-starters.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce. Was that surprising for you to see that on the depth chart?
It wasn't that surprising to me because I got used to it last year. I didn't know how the NFL does this stuff where they could put the or on the depth chart. I'm like, that's weak. I'm like, I ain't never seen a depth chart with an or on it until last year. And they did it with Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew at the time because they didn't want to give it away. So I do feel like the or this year is a bit more like honest. Like last year, I think everyone was pretty convinced that AR was going to start the season opener. Whereas this year, I'm just not sure. I would still probably give Alec a slight edge because he has the experience. And he played, I believe, like the most snaps of any wide receiver last year in the NFL. So to take him out of that role and to instantly install A.D. Mitchell is a big jump. But like I said, A.D. is not conceding anything. And then on top of that, they could be in a position where both players end up getting more reps anyways because Josh Downs got banged up today. He's going to be out, according to sources that talked to us at The Athletic, for about 4 to 6 weeks. So he might miss the season opener. And so if that's the case, obviously you're glad to have drafted A.D. Mitchell because you at least have another player you can insert and hopefully get some catches.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting situation for that room because Josh Downs was popping off the page towards the end of the season last year. So he was the clear-cut number 2 receiver. And now, like you said, maybe more reps for A.D. Mitchell, maybe more reps for Alec Pierce to let them show more of what they got, and maybe make it an easier decision for the coaching staff to decide who will be that wide receiver 3. And so I want to go into just the logistics of things, right? We're talking about the depth chart, who we should be looking out for. And so when it comes to what you've seen at camp, anybody that plays fantasy, anybody that's into that type of thing, who is somebody on the Colts roster that you feel like would be a solid draft choice if you're trying to find somebody to put on your fantasy team?
Yeah, Josh Downs was number 1 for me until about 5 hours ago.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, Josh was, I think, a little slept on after his rookie season. He broke the Colts' single season rookie record with catches last year, 68 catches, 771 yards, 2 touchdowns. Big year for him. And he was honestly, even earlier today when he got hurt, he was cooking. And I was like, man, this guy might be the best player offensively in camp. Like, that's how good he looked. And that's with a team that has Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr., on the roster. And so, obviously, you probably shouldn't draft him, week 1 or whatever, because he's sidelined. But he's someone to keep in mind. I would also throw in like a dark horse, Evan Hull. I think that he's a guy, backup running back from Northwestern, only appeared in 1 game last year due to a torn MCL. Back here this year, he's healthy. I think that he could be like that third down pass catching running back for them, where when JT needs a breather, he can still give you a little power as a runner, but also he can alleviate some pressure and be that check down spot for AR. I think that's going to be huge. I think that AR is not going to be this super precise passer, but you get him in a rhythm sometimes. I think that there are going to be times we can just dump it off to Evan Hull, and he can be that guy to kind of move the chains a little bit. And he has a big history, if you look at what he did at Northwestern, of catching the ball and being productive with that. Like, he's caught a lot of passes throughout his career, and I think that will translate to the NFL. So that's my other dark horse guy. And then I guess one last one, if you really want to swing for the fences, will be Jelani Woods. I think that Jelani Woods has all of the tools to be a productive tight end, but now is just, can you put it all together? He's shown flashes throughout camp, having good plays and some not so good plays, but the consistency is what you want to see more of. But again, when you're talking about dark horse, you just never know. If you want to take a late round, swing on a guy, he might be one to consider.
Yeah, I've heard and seen a lot of things about Jelani making some plays, and especially AR trying to find like his comfortable target, is knowing that it's been a while since he's played an actual football game. Mm-hmm. And so just last couple questions for you. One, when it comes to AR and his running capabilities, have you seen any type of holdback when it comes to their play calling, trying not to have AR run as often? Or has Steichen talked about, no, we're going to keep it as is? No, he had injury issues last year, but there's no way we can take him away from the running game.
I'm so glad you asked this question, because this was the question that was asked like one of the first days of camp. And Shane Steichen, who's normally very like boring, mundane, cookie cutter answer, he was like, would you tell Steph Curry to stop shooting threes? And so they're going to keep using AR's legs and make sure that he's able to run. And I think you see the special abilities within that, particularly when you get down to the goal line. I know like last year, that was a struggle for them to kind of punch it in at times. And I know with other teams, you might try to throw a slot, pass, or you might try to throw a fade to your wide receiver. For them, I highly doubt the Colts will like ever throw when it's like, within 5 yards of the end zone. That's how much they trust AR's legs. And basically their go-to play when they get down to the goal line is like, okay, we're going to snap it to him and make you pick. He can either, give it to JT or keep it for himself, or we can have an RPO and have him like fake like he's going to run and then pass it over the top. And so I think that they're going to make sure they use his legs. And at this point, it's just a matter of, can he hold up? But they're not going to hold him back from being what they drafted him to be. And I think that's the right call. I mean, obviously, you like him to stay healthy. If he can't, he just isn't the guy. But you can't hold him back from being the guy because you're scared of him being hurt. So I think they're going to use his legs a lot. And I think that it's going to be a big key for this offense.
I agree. I think you got to let him flourish, right? You got to let him do what he does best. And that's run the football, make him a threat that way, and then use that to then throw it over the top.
Exactly.
Like you mentioned, on the goal line, there's no reason to throw the ball because you got a two-headed monster basically back there with JT. And you mentioned last year missing this part of the year because of the ankle injury. But then also, let's not forget, he was holding out. He was trying to get a new contract. Yeah. So There's a couple things happening with JT last year at this time of year. And now he's all full go. He's 100%. And so do you see the old JT kind of back at practice?
Yeah, obviously I can't be in his body. I can't say how injured or not injured he was last year. However, I mean, we all know he was not happy with his contract situation last year. I mean, the guy barely smiled when I saw him at camp, but now all I see is teeth, because he's got the money. It's kicking in this year, the new deal, he's healthy, all those things. But I will say that I think he has a lot to prove because he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since he went for, I think, like 1,800 yards in 2021 when he won the league rushing title. And so now it's like, how do you bounce back from 2 seasons where you were kind of banged up? And then also, like we just talked about, I'm paid now. You're paying me like I'm a top 5 running back in the league. I got to go out there and perform like one. So I think he's hungry. We asked Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, about it at the beginning of the season. And beginning of the training camp, actually, and he said, "Hey, I expect him to have a big year." He left it at that. I guess he was like, "All right, we shut out the money, do what you got to do." So I expect him to have a really big year. I don't know. I don't think he'll go for like anything crazy, like 1,700, 1,800 yards, because AR is going to run too. You have other running backs that are going to get touches, but I expect a 1,000-yard season from JT for sure.
Yeah, big year for JT. Big year for James Boyd as well. By the way, saw little homie had your picture on the sign.
Yeah, that was fire, wasn't it?
That's
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that was tough,
you,
man.
Bro.
No, I appreciate that, man. I think camp is always fun because this is the most interaction I have with the fans directly, because most of the time when you go to games, if you're a writer, you're in the press box. You don't see them on a day-to-day basis. And so being able to come out to camp every day, seeing my picture up on somebody's sign, or just high-fiving fans or taking photos with them, or somebody tells me, "Hey, my kid wants to do what you do. What advice do you have for him?" Things like that is always cool because, I mean, I complain about, being out at camp. Oh, it's hot. It was raining today. I mean, at the end of the day, man, I get paid to go watch football, so life is good.
Man, you're good at your job, bro. So thank you
Appreciate
so much
you,
for hopping on. Thank you for taking the time, and can't wait to have you on again, bro. You always bring great insight, so I got to have you on again.
Anytime, bro.
Man, another great conversation with James. He always brings the heat and the insight. I'm mad you missed it, though, Dion. Golly, bro.
But I am liking what I'm hearing. I am liking what I'm hearing. Fantasy sounding promising for Mr. Adonai Mitchell. And you might be on a team with my name on it this year. I'm just
or my name
out there.
Just saying.
Anyways.
But yeah, I liked it too. I like the conversation because, of course, the whole topic is if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Like this team goes where he goes. Mm-hmm. And so to hear Coach Steichen say, we're not going to stop running the football with Anthony because you don't tell Steph Curry to stop shooting threes, it's funny, and it makes sense. Yeah. But also like two different things, bro. Yeah. Completely different things. Like you mentioned, Dion.
Yeah, I see where he was trying to get at, but it's just not the same.
It's not the same.
Apples and oranges.
It's not the same. It's not the same. But I respect it, though. That lets me know, though, Anthony Richardson is going to be running the football. And for fantasy purposes, that's big time. And especially at the goal line, it's going to be AR-15, quarterback power, or Jonathan Taylor, running back power. Like, it's just going to be those two things.
Yeah, see, that's also scares me too, because again, you just never know. That team offensively, they're loaded, so you just never know. It's gonna be they're gonna distribute the ball. So it's like, I mean, don't they still have Pittman?
Yep, exactly. That's a wide receiver one. Yep, still got Pittman out there. Just got a fresh new contract too. Yeah, so they're gonna throw him the ball.
It's gonna be. Hopefully they get an identity, and then you can know, like, okay, bet I can count on this guy to give me my fantasy points. But what's next on the
Yeah, I'm about to say, there's the identity out there in Nashville, Tennessee is a very strong defensive and offensive line. And on the defensive side of the ball, one of those guys is the Texas X, Tavondre Sweat. I was able to talk to Ben Arthur from Fox Sports. He covers the entire AFC South, but more specifically, he's honing in on the Tennessee Titans with us. And so we were able to discuss, like I mentioned, Sweat, but also their new pickup in free agency, Quandre Diggs, another Texas X. He's added to that secondary who just picked up Jamal Adams a couple weeks ago. So Tennessee's trying to revitalize that secondary that got depleted last year. And if you also want to include L'Jarius Sneed, they picked him up in free agency. So that secondary is looking kind of nice out there in Tennessee. I'm low-key kind of nervous as a Houston Texans fan. But I'm not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ben Arthur right now. And so here's our conversation with Big Ben. And now our final guest of the day. I'm so excited to talk to this guy because he is one of my brodies. Now he writes for Fox Sports for the whole AFC South, but then also NFL at large. Ben Arthur, my guy, how have you been? How you living? I miss you in Chicago, bro.
Man,
I thought you could have been out there.
Man, I wish I was there. Man, I saw all the photos and all the good time that you guys were having out there. I missed out for sure. It's been a couple years since I've been to NABJ, so I got to make that happen soon at some point. But good to see you, man. It's been a minute. I know I had you on my podcast a month or two ago, so it's good to return the favor, do you a solid. But thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, dog. And you weren't there because you were grinding. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, NFL training camp. You know how it is. It doesn't stop, you know?
Yeah, facts. And that's why I have you here, right? Because I know you are the guy that had the eyes on the field. You got your feet on the ground, on the turf. I don't know what Tennessee, what do they have out there for the Titans? Do they got turf or do they got natural grass? What they got?
They have natural grass.
Okay, yeah. You got your feet in the natural grass, and you're able to watch dudes like a guy I'm about to ask you about, T'Vondre Sweat. It seems like he's Austin's favorite, former Longhorn. And, you know, I've been asking everybody about the Texas X's, and everyone seems to be doing well in camp. So I haven't asked you yet, but where have you seen T'Vondre Sweat improve, and how do you think he fits into that defensive line right next to Jeffrey Simmons?
Yeah, I'll have to say T'Vondre Sweat has been wreaking havoc as of late. I think maybe it kind of started a little slow for him. He started out with like the second team. I think with him and a lot of the other D linemen just having to work themselves into shape a little bit. And I think just with T'Vondre, how he's built, maybe the weight, the conditioning thing will maybe always be a factor with him. But he's started to figure it out. After the first few practices, he started running with the ones next to Jeffrey Simmons. And man, he's been doing some special things, you know, being able to knock back the interior O linemen, like the Titans. Their center, Lloyd Cushenberry, he just got, you know, one of the best deals for a center in history, like a historic contract. So he's one of the better centers in the NFL. And there have been a couple moments where he's been able to really knock him back. There was one situational period they had where the offense was backed up like next to their own end zone, and T'Vondre had a would-be safety like in a real game, if it had been a real game. So he's been doing some good things, and Titans coach Brian Callahan has talked about how you can really feel his presence, and so he's been very noticeable. He's definitely been, the last several days, been one of the standouts at Titans training camp overall, regardless of rookie or vet. I think he's really started to find his groove a little bit.
You said he was running with the ones. Is that so? He's running with the starters? You saying
he is
really a starter? Wow.
Yeah. I mean that's where it's headed. I mean, he's your second round pick. You would hope that he is a starter. But yeah, he's been running with the ones since like the fourth or fifth day of training camp. And yeah, he's looked really good, whether it be one-on-ones or team periods. Like I said, like he's been looking pretty good. So,
have you been able to experience his personality yet? Because that's one of my favorite characteristics about T'Vondre, is just his freaking spirit and an energy and aura is just so infatuating. And so, have you been able to get a taste of that yet?
To be honest, we haven't really seen it as much yet, and I think that has to do with, I mean, the dynamics change when you're in the NFL, right? Yeah. Like he was top of his game at Texas, and now you're in the NFL, you're a rookie. I think you're trying to find yourself a little bit, know where your places are, like how much of maybe yourself you can show right off the bat. And so I don't think we've really seen that fully to this point. I will say we did see it during his draft call when he just got picked up by the Titans in what was it, end of April when the draft was. So I think we saw a little bit of it then, but But yeah, I think in flashes, Cory, like we see what he can be. Like actually, some of the other reporters and we've talked about it, like how he has. You just know that he has kind of that potential of being a great quote in the locker room once he becomes more of an established player. But as of right now, it's definitely been more mellow. I would have to say, yeah.
Ben, do you have any early predictions of kind of what's Sweat's role and kind of some stats you think he'll be able to break out this year and do?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Like I said, I think he's definitely a starter. I mean, I think he could put up some really big numbers because playing alongside Jeffrey Simmons and there are very few defensive tackles that are better than Jeffrey Simmons. Like I would probably only take 2 or 3 definitively above Jeff, and just knowing the double teams, the convention, the attention, I should say, that he's going to command, it's going to free up a lot of opportunities for T'Vondre. And he's so big, as you guys know, like having to handle him one-on-one. And like I said, like he's had moments where he's really manhandling the Titans' interior O-linemen. And so once he starts going up against these other teams, their interior O-linemen, I think he could put up some pretty big numbers. I mean, it's tough to say, from a TFL sack standpoint, but
yeah, you're good.
I do. Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Big, huge person, huge impact. That's
exactly.
That's what we're hearing.
Exactly.
And T'Vondre's not the only Longhorn on that roster. Recently picked up Quandre Diggs. What do you feel like he fits in, and why do you feel like Tennessee went out and got an addition to the secondary?
Yeah, I think in time he's the starting free safety for the Titans. That's kind of a spot they still needed to address. I know they added Jamal Adams a couple weeks ago, a good friend of Quandre's and also a teammate of his with the Seahawks, but he's more of a situational player, right? Just in terms of being a pressure package guy, blitzing, roaming around the box, whereas Quandre, I think, really shores up that back end in a way that they haven't had since they traded Kevin Byard midway through last season. I mean, Kevin Byard was an all-pro in Tennessee, and so I think as soon as he gets ramped up with the Titans and starts to get a feel for the Titans defense, that he's going to be the starter back there. And he's a big time playmaker, as you guys probably know. And the Titans, from a takeaways, forcing turnover standpoint, they were awful last season. They had just 14 takeaways last season, which was second worst in the NFL. And Quandre has had at least 4 in 3 of his last 4 seasons. He's been before last season, it was a Pro Bowler 3 straight years, and so you're getting a big time playmaker in the back end, and also a big time leader that I think, again, that the Titans have missed since they traded Kevin Byard to the Eagles last season. So I expect a big role for him as well.
Yeah, definitely need that leadership to step up, especially with so many new faces on the team this year. Especially on offense, right? If you just look around, you got dudes like Calvin Ridley, who wasn't there last year, dudes like Tony Pollard, who wasn't there last year. Heck, the head coach wasn't there last year in Callahan. And so what have you seen out of Will Levis? What do you have seen out of this new offense? D-Hop having another year with Levis. Anything or anybody fantasy-wise that we should be looking out for that may have been popping off at camp that you're like,
I got my notepad ready, please. If you got some good information, let us know.
Yeah, he'll be because his offense is going to be completely different. And so, can you give us an insight on that?
Yeah, it's really interesting from a fantasy perspective for the Titans because I think they're really going to be distributing the ball a lot, because I think last year it would have been easy to say like DeAndre Hopkins, right? Because he was the only guy they had on the outside. But now you have Calvin Ridley, you have Tyler Boyd, you still have Hopkins. And then even with Tony Pollard being in the backfield, I think people are going to really get to know him this season. But Tajay Spears, who took away snaps started taking away snaps from Derrick Henry last season, they're RB1A and RB1B. Like they're pretty much going to play an even amount. And so it's really hard to say one guy is going to pop off. I will say, I mean, I think DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best bet of the skill guys they have, just because he already has that year under his belt with Will Levis.
Yeah.
I think Will Levis and Calvin Ridley are still trying to figure each other out a bit. I mean, people have to understand that like Calvin Ridley's speed is like a whole different animal. Like he moves like different, and then there have been a number of like misfires. Like they haven't completely clicked to this point. As of the day we're recording, they actually have their best day together, but a lot of it has been kind of inconsistent at this point. Like Will still trying to get a feel for Calvin's speed, and then Calvin adjusting to a new quarterback, of course. So I'm not sure about them from like a fantasy perspective at this point, but just knowing the connection that Will and D-Hop had last season, of the offensive skill guys, he's probably the guy from a fantasy perspective I would keep the most eyes on.
And what will be the biggest difference? I know Dion's shaking his head
tough.
because
He's
trying to figure out who to draft.
Yeah,
He's trying to figure out who to draft.
Draft's coming up soon, man. It's like, dang, I was hoping we getting some, some secret information. It's like, oh yeah, no,
hey man, if I had something for you, I would tell you. But
keeping it real though.
Yeah, no, I'm keeping it real. Like I don't want to say like, oh, take Calvin Ridley and he doesn't do anything for you, bro. So I had to, yeah.
He helping you out, low key.
Exactly. I'm telling you where not to go. Yeah. So yeah.
That's smooth though. And I just wanted to ask one last thing, and then we'll get you out of here, Brody. This offense, right? Everyone's been so used to the ground and pound, Mike Vrabel handed off to Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans. So where have you seen the biggest difference with this new regime coming in? Derrick Henry now in Baltimore. What is the biggest, like I said, difference between last year or the years past to now this year's offensive scheme?
Yeah, it's exactly that, Corey. It's the fact that they're not a ground and pound team anymore. Watching since the offseason program to minicamp to now training camp, seeing how much they're passing the ball is like, completely different from the last several years I've been watching the Titans. I mean, it's a completely different philosophy shift. They're passing the ball a lot more. This is a very receiver-friendly offense, so they're going to be getting the ball in the hands of those guys, even their backs. I mean, of course, there are going to be times where, you have to run between the tackles in football, but they're going to use them a lot in the pass game. So Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, they're going to be catching a lot of passes as well. And so just that shift to passing the ball, and it kind of goes beyond Mike Vrabel, right? Like I think this Titans franchise has always been known as a team that runs the rock, right? Whether it goes, CJ2K, like Chris Johnson days, or Eddie George. Exactly. Yeah. Eddie George before that. And so for them to kind of embrace like this pass first, throwing the ball a lot, getting our receivers involved early, throwing it on early downs, all of that is going to be what to expect from the Titans this season.
Jeez, the keys are in Will Levis's hands.
Exactly.
Can't wait to see that. Well, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time and giving us your insight. Where can people watch your work? Where can people read your work to know that you got all things locked down in the AFC South?
Yeah, so people can find me on foxsports.com. If you go to the personalities page, just type my name. All my videos and written work will appear there. And then on X, you can find me at Ben Arthur. Same thing on Instagram. And then also my work is on the Fox Sports app as well. So people could tap in. I'm pretty much everywhere where sports reporters typically are. So it's not that hard to find me.
You just got to go looking for them.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we'll be chopping up with you throughout the season, man, because I got to have you back on.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
Man, Ben's mic. I got to get that mic, bro. Because that mic was loud. It was clear.
If you didn't hear him, just know we heard him. We heard him loud and clear. All right?
What'd you like to hear the most, bro?
I mean, I guess out of all the Texas X's, it sounds like Sweat probably is in the best, one of the best situations where, you really got to good to be able to go one-on-one because you got a beast across from you. So it's looking good for him. I'm loving what I'm hearing. Nothing really fantasy-wise, unless you're one of those. I mean, you really committed. You drafted a whole squad.
No, facts.
If you're really committed, you drafted a whole squad. I mean, there's something wrong with you. But yeah, it sounds like. I mean, maybe I guess fantasy-wise, their defense. It sounds like their defense is going to be really good. So there'll be that team defense that give you 30-something points on some crazy stuff. But yeah, it sounds really good for Sweat. What about you, Cory?
Yeah, I was going to say fantasy-wise, though, if you heard them, there's running backs. Running backs are going to be catching the ball out the backfield. So full PPR leagues, if that's something that you're in, that may be something to consider. Because Tony Pollard was heavily involved in the Cowboys passing game. And so maybe they plan on doing that with him. And also Tajay Spears, he was heavily involved in the Titans offense last year. Whenever Derrick Henry would come out, Spears would get a lot of those catches out the backfield. So we'll see what that offense looks like with the running backs. And maybe the PPR leagues is where you go for some Titans running backs. But another thing that I just thought was intriguing was Will Levis getting the keys to this car. Like, yeah, he had some flashes last year, but to give him the keys, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll
this
see.
is
Ben,
definitely his 30-day trial. They're really gonna see. They're going to test him this year and see. Guys is getting 40, 50. Let's see if you worth it.
Yeah, I just don't know. I'm not on the train yet. Ben said that he does like Will Levis. He thinks he's going to take that step with this new offensive line, with the new weapons. He told us that after our conversation got done recording. But I will say I'm not agreeing with him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I can believe it just yet.
You're not convinced yet.
I can't do it just yet. I can't do it. But you know what I can do? Move over to our final thoughts. What are we thinking? Dion, what's been on your mind about the sports world, anything in general, before we head out of here?
Final thoughts, man. I mean, we're gonna stick with football. It's kind of crazy that Texas their hand is all over the league. They really transformed into Bama, man. They got the Lambo NIL deal. I mean, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy, bro. It's crazy how they can just flip the script, bro. Like, that used to be the joke with Bama. Oh, you going to Bama so you can get the Camaro, the Charger. Now Texas is like, yo, you can come to Texas and get a Lambo NIL deal, and we're gonna send you to the league, and you could be starting on the team. Like, yeah, it's just crazy how fast things can change, and that is like an amazing turnaround that Texas have done. A rebrand, I guess you can say. A couple years ago, they weren't good. Now you got Lamborghinis and you got first-round draft picks. I mean, this is a crazy world we live in. Things can change extremely fast. But what about you, Cory?
In the spirit of the Olympics, everything happening, my final thought is,
no, don't get canceled. Don't get canceled.
Y'all better put some respect on Noah Lyles' names, bro. Y'all gotta put some respect on my boy, my Yu-Gi-Oh card holding, my nerd geek friend, who is now the fastest man on the planet after winning the 100-meter dash, and he's going to win a 200-meter dash, by the way, as well. We're recording this pod on a Wednesday afternoon, and so if he does go out and not win it, that's gonna be bad.
Please refer back to this episode.
Yeah, don't refer back to this episode at all if he does lose the 200-meter. But if he does win it, refer back to this episode because he's going to win it. And I just wish people would stop hating on this man because I get it. He's a nerd, right?
He's not a nerd.
He's a geek.
He's just corny. No, you're using the wrong word.
What do you mean?
Being a geek is okay. He's corny, bro. He's corny. He's corny and zesty.
He's not zesty. He's not zesty. Come on, bro. Zesty's crazy. I just think if you watch the Netflix documentary Sprint, first off, great documentary. You should go watch it if you haven't seen it. But you got an insight about who Noah is as a person. And I think after getting that insight, I understand him a little bit better. And I get why he does what he does and why he does all the theatrics. Because he just wants to make a name for the sport of track and field. And coming from a guy and myself who comes from a track family who grew up running track, I can appreciate that. Because he's right. They don't get the national attention unless it's the Olympics. Or the World Championships. And so, yeah, for sure. Respect to Noah Lyles. and the USA basketball team better win it, because if they don't win it and Noah got gold in 100, oh my God, I would be talking so much trash if I was Noah if that happens. But I don't think that will.
Exactly.
I think men's basketball going to run away with it.
No reason to even bring that up. Like,
I'm just saying though. I'm just saying. You saw Joel Embiid in the crowd hating.
Come on, man.
You saw him hate. You saw Embiid in the crowd hating.
Yeah, that's why he's not playing. Look, the theory of him being a secret agent, I have to believe it.
Yeah,
there's no way you play that bad. You're supposed to be the best center in the world. There's no way.
He's not. His name is Jokic, not Embiid. But yeah, dude. Respect to Noah Lyles, and I'm happy that he shut a lot of haters up, including Dion. So yeah, that's all I got though. Yeah, what you mean?
Why am I catching a stray?
You were just hating.
Catching a stray.
You were just hating. I'm just saying.
I'm not. Hating. I recognize he's a fast guy. He's just corny.
The fastest. He's the fastest.
He's corny. He's the corniest fast guy we know. That's the respect he'll get from me. What do you mean, world? What do you mean? Like, come on. Like, come on,
bro. Come on. Stop it. Stop it. All right. Here you go.
Hey, last thing before we get out of here. I know I sent you the TikTok. Prime Embiid or Prime Dwight?
Prime Dwight. I like Prime Dwight. I just think, pause. I think Dwight Howard was dominant on the defensive end to a degree that we just haven't seen until now with Wemby. Like, I don't think Gobert was this dominant as Dwight was, if that makes sense. You couldn't go inside.
People are actually scared to go inside against Dwight.
You couldn't go inside. So we haven't seen this dominance in the paint since, Wemby's the first guy in a while since Dwight that we've seen it. AD's had his moments, Anthony Davis, but like, I don't think it's been as consistent as Dwight was over that whole 5-6 year stretch. And so Embiid's cool, but Embiid can never stay healthy. Embiid also disappears at times. And Embiid didn't take his team to the NBA Finals yet, like Dwight did. So, yeah, I'm taking Prime Dwight over Prime Joel Embiid.
Prime Dwight, I feel like, and towards the end of his career, he was starting to get in his bag too.
He get a little bag.
He's starting to get in his bag.
Like Blake Griffin.
I think Dwight, if he's in this era, or he comes in the league, 5-10 years later, I think he goes crazy, bro. I think he goes crazy. Oh man, but yeah, let's get out of here. I miss the 2010s. Jeez.
It's man, I miss a lot about 2010s. I miss when you could buy groceries for $50, but that's neither here nor there. All right, here we go. Thank y'all for listening in, watching in for another episode of Mose Knows. I hope y'all have a sensational week. As always, Dion, you're